When you think about early America, specifically the 1700s, what immediately pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably European settlers, colonial trade, maybe the founding fathers. But there is this secret, hidden foundation of quiet resilience in early American history, one that was literally hidden in plain sight, and incredibly, modern science is only just beginning to truly understand it. Welcome to this explainer. Today we're uncovering a really fascinating story, one that bridges a mostly forgotten history with the absolute genius of human neuroscience.
Okay, let's dive into this. Between 10 to 30%. That is a staggering number, and it represents something history books almost never mentioned. It's the estimated proportion of enslaved West Africans brought to America who were Muslim. Long before modern mosques popped up in cities like New York or LA, this faith was already being practiced right here on American soil, and it was happening in secret, under severe, unimaginable hardship, often written down on tiny scraps of paper in perfectly fluent Arabic.
Just consider the story of Omar ibn Said for a second. He is a prime example of this hidden history, a literal scholar in chains. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, going from being a wealthy, highly respected, deeply educated scholar in your own homeland, to suddenly being an enslaved laborer in a completely foreign country, a place where absolutely no one speaks your language, or even begins to understand your fundamental beliefs.
Born in 1770 in what is now Senegal, Omar was a wealthy scholar. He was completely fluent in Arabic and highly versed in theology, mathematics, you name it. But in 1807, his entire life was violently upended. He was captured during a military conflict and dragged across the Atlantic to Charleston, South Carolina. But here's the thing. Decades later, in 1831, he managed to accomplish something almost unimaginable. He wrote a complete autobiography.
What's truly remarkable here is exactly how he sustained that intellect and spirit, facing unimaginable daily trauma and completely stripped of any physical texts or books. Omar pulled off an incredible cognitive feat. He wrote out verses of Surah al-Mulk entirely from memory onto whatever tiny scraps of paper he could get his hands on. He absolutely refused to let his faith and his knowledge die. And today, his work stands as the only known surviving Arabic autobiography written by an enslaved person in the U.S. No way he was going to let that part of him be erased.
And this brilliantly illustrates that this kind of profound resilience didn't just take one form. While Omar was preserving his brilliant mind in chains down in South Carolina, another historical figure, Yaro Mahmoud, was forging an entirely different path to freedom and prosperity up in Washington, D.C.
Yaro was brought to Maryland in 1752, and he endured decades of grueling labor, but finally, gaining his freedom at 60 years old. But rather than just fading away into the background, he experienced an absolute triumph in his later years. We're talking buying property, investing in Georgetown stocks, and becoming a highly respected community figure. He prayed publicly, maintained strict halal habits, and get this, he was so well regarded in Georgetown that the leading American portrait artist of the era, Charles Willson Peale, painted him in 1819. That painting is actually one of the earliest known portraits of an American Muslim. All of this brings us to a really profound question, right? How did they maintain this incredible mental fortitude against such unimaginable odds? Seriously, how did figures like Umar and Yaro regulate their intense emotions, maintain their deep sense of dignity, and keep their minds razor-sharp when their external environment was entirely designed to break them down?
Well, to answer that, we actually have to pivot away from 18th century history and look right at modern science. Think about it. Today, we're paying hundreds of dollars for meditation apps and fancy biohacking retreats, all just trying to cure our modern anxiety. But the daily routines practiced by these historical scholars actually hold the exact neuroscience-backed secrets we've been searching for. We are looking at the literal intersection where a 1,400-year-old spiritual discipline meets cutting-edge modern brain science.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it breaks down our brain waves. A stressed, sensory-overloaded brain acts like a blaring car alarm, right? It's operating on these high beta waves that just drive panic and anxiety. But neuroscientists studying the deep, contemplative states achieved during structured daily prayer have found something amazing. It physically shifts brainwave activity down into alpha and theta waves. It acts as an absolute override switch, completely forcing the brain out of a state of stress and into a state of deep, restorative calm and clarity.
A super important component of this shift is sujood, the physical act of prostration during prayer. Imagine stepping away from intense mental stress or back-breaking physical labor 5 times a day just to physically place your forehead on the ground. This isn't just some symbolic gesture, okay? It acts as a much-needed forced reset for a brain that is otherwise suffering from constant sensory and emotional overload. And from a purely physiological standpoint, this physical movement actually increases blood flow directly to the frontal lobe. In psychology, we know the frontal lobe is basically the brain's central command center. It governs decision-making, emotional control, and self-restraint. By repeatedly engaging this specific area of the brain every single day, this practice quite literally protected their mental fortitude and kept them firmly grounded in reality. Beyond daily prayer, we have the profound practice of fasting, known as Psalm. And to really understand its power, you don't need to look any further than the 2016 Nobel Prize in Physiology. It was awarded for groundbreaking research on autophagy. If you aren't familiar, autophagy is this incredible biological process where your cells actively clean out their damaged components and repair themselves when they're deprived of nutrients. It's like a deep clean for your cellular machinery. Let's move to and see how this builds into something even bigger. Intentional fasting kicks off a truly fascinating chain reaction. First, that nutrient deprivation triggers the cellular cleanup, the autophagy. But then, it triggers the release of something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You can basically think of BDNF as miracle growth for your brain. It actively stimulates new neuron growth, powerfully protects the mind against cognitive decline and trauma-induced brain fog. When you synthesize all this information together, it's just mind-blowing. What was prescribed centuries ago as an intentional spiritual act of devotion actually aligns perfectly with modern metabolic science. It physically detoxes the body, clears the mind of fog, and positively alters neurochemistry in a way that builds immense, lasting cognitive endurance. But you know, their resilience wasn't just built on physical routines. It also relied heavily on a deeply ingrained psychological framework. Let's look at the concepts of shukr and tawakkul, which translate to the practices of deep gratitude and letting go of what you simply cannot control. These early Muslims embedded gratitude and complete surrender directly into their everyday language and their most fundamental mindset. For example, there's a really powerful verse in the Quran that states, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you." Now, modern positive psychology is constantly preaching the benefits of gratitude journals and mindfulness, right? But this ancient wisdom was a moment-to-moment, practical, psychological shield against chronic worry, despair, and sheer mental exhaustion.
नखरा इसका टॉप पर आती है टिकटॉक पर नैनो से है नैन मिलाती लड़कों के है दिल जलाती बिल्डी में है चर्चा इसका नीरा जितना खर्चा इसका मैंने बोला इसको मेट्रो में बिठाऊंगा कैपिटल ले जाऊंगा F7 भी घुमाऊंगा मोनाल भी दिखाऊंगा सितोरिस भी ले जाऊंगा आशिक हूँ
This conscious shift physically lowers your cortisol levels, which is your primary stress hormone, and it builds this immense, almost unshakable resilience against anxiety. When we zoom out and look at the lives of historical figures like Omar ibn Said and Yaro Mahmoud, through both a historical and a scientific lens, a really clear pattern emerges. The human mind thrives on three things: structure, pause, and purpose. Real peace isn't just about the absence of noise, hardship, or struggle. It's really about finding absolute calm right in the middle of all that chaos through these three vital pillars. So which aspect of this connection surprised you the most? Are you maybe going to rethink how you handle your own modern stressors, now that you know the ancient neuroscience behind true resilience? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop them in the comments below. Hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of our world. We'll see you next time.